हैं तो सेफ हैं।
हम सेफ है महाराष्ट्र में और हमको ज्यादा सेफ होना है, इसलिए हमको बीजेपी को यहाँ से निकालना है।
बीजेपी एक जात को दूसरी जात से, एक धर्म को दूसरे धर्म से, एक प्रदेश को दूसरे प्रदेश से बांटने का काम करते हैं।
Hi everybody, the Maharashtra elections are about to begin and let me tell you, this isn't just an election, it's an all-out battlefield. On one side, the BJP is desperate to hold on to power after a shocking setback in the general elections. On the other hand, the Congress is fighting tooth and nail just to keep BJP out of power. And in the eye of this firestorm is the Shiv Sena, which is now divided between Eknath, Shinde and Uddhav Thackeray. And while the media is obsessed over the Shinde versus Uddhav showdown, they are ignoring a far bigger crisis that is threatening the very soul of Maharashtra. There is a war happening, but it is not just at the corridors of power, it is happening in the economy of Maharashtra, on the streets of Maharashtra, and in the lives of crores of Maharashtrians. And let me tell you guys, the economy of Maharashtra is cracking under the weight of real issues. And while the political parties keep handing out freebies worth tens of thousands of crores to please the voters, there is a massive east-west divide that is tearing Maharashtra apart. While Mumbai is booming with opportunities, the rest of Maharashtra is struggling for jobs. And if we don't pay attention, the best performing state of Maharashtra will soon turn into a disaster like West Bengal. So today, after weeks of digging through Maharashtra's districts, its economy and the power play shaping its future, we've prepared a detailed report to help you understand what exactly is the economic status of Maharashtra in the middle of this political firestorm, what are the economic viruses that are killing the foundation of Maharashtra's economy, how is this east-west divide tearing Maharashtra apart, and most importantly, as residents of Maharashtra, what should we the people of Maharashtra expect from the party that comes to power? Before we move on, I would like to thank our partners for today's episode, which is Growth School. People, irrespective of which government comes to power, one thing remains certain. Our job security and income will ultimately depend on our skill sets, and one technology that's reshaping the job landscape is artificial intelligence. AI wouldn't replace people, but AI skilled people will replace those who do not adapt. Let me introduce you to Rashi. She generates a 6-figure passive income monthly through an AI-driven side hustle. She does that by using tools like ChatGPT, Zapier, and code interpreters, and with just AI training, she is now financially free. And you can build something like Rashi by attending this 3-hour hands-on AI training. The link is in the description. Usually it is a paid one, but for the first 1500 viewers, it is completely free. In this training, you will learn everything from building business, job hunting strategies, to salary hike strategies, and solving complex data in seconds, and you can even learn how to build your own personal brand. You get all of this along with 20 plus other AI tools. Also, there is a bonus worth 5,000 rupees after completing this training. More than 1 million people, including my own team, has already attended this course and they found it incredibly valuable. So register for this training using the link in the description and join their WhatsApp group to get timely notifications about this exclusive training. And now, on with the episode. Chalo, let's start from the basics and see what exactly is the real state of Maharashtra's economy. To analyze Maharashtra's economic status, we first have to understand the most important parameters that determine the economic status of a state. In this case, the 4 questions that we must ask are: what is the overall financial status of Maharashtra? How well are they managing their revenue? How is the government working towards the welfare of people with education and healthcare? And finally, how much is the government investing in infrastructure like highways and airports to make it easier for new businesses and industries to be built in the state? For these 4 questions, as you can see on the screen, we've jotted down the most important economic parameters that can give us these answers. Now I know this looks complex, but don't worry at all, they are very easy to understand, and I will explain them in such a manner that even a 10th standard student will understand. So let's get started. Let's start with Maharashtra's gross domestic product, or the state GDP. While India's GDP grew at 8.2%, Maharashtra grew by 7.6%, Tamil Nadu grew by 8.2%, and UP grew by 8%. So is Maharashtra growing well? Absolutely yes. Even on a per capita basis, Maharashtra is well ahead with a per capita income of 2.7 lakh rupees, which is greater than the national per capita income of 1.84 lakh rupees. And if you look at Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, they stand at 2.7 lakh rupees and 3.15 lakh rupees respectively. And lastly, if you look at unemployment data, while Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu both are performing decently on par with national average, Gujarat is performing exceptionally well. This completes our first segment, which is Maharashtra's overview, which as of now looks absolutely fantastic. So everything looks fantastic, right? The growth is happening, per capita GDP is high, unemployment is decent, and the state by itself is the top contributor to India. So you might think that there are no problems in Maharashtra's economy at all, right? Well, that is why, ladies and gentlemen, there is a twist. And this twist lies in the second parameter, which is revenue management. And here's where Maharashtra has a big problem called the revenue deficit problem. With the elections around the corner, freebies are being rolled out right, left and center in Maharashtra. And the disappointing thing over here is that these freebies are coming from the BJP, which has always been against freebies.
It is a war of freebies ahead of crucial Maharashtra polls.
महालक्ष्मी योजना 3,000 रुपए हर महिला के बैंक अकाउंट में हर महीने इंडिया गठबंधन की सरकार डालने जा रही है।
लाडली बहन योजना ये गेम चेंजर योजना है।
माझ्या बहिणींनो 1,07,00,000 माझ्या बहिणींच्या खात्यात पैसे आपण वर्ग केले।
Now this is not money that is BJP money or Congress money. This is money that is funded by the taxpayers of Maharashtra, by you, me, everyone who pays taxes in this country.
Now the press says that every scheme that they've announced is a bad freebie. But we the people need to know that there are good freebies and there are bad freebies. So it is very important for us to understand the difference between political propaganda and actual welfare. Look at this. The first freebie is the Maji Ladki Bahin Yojana, which is costing the state 46,000 crores per year. This scheme provides eligible women with a monthly financial assistance of 1,500 rupees. This is very similar to the Congress scheme of providing 1 lakh rupees per year to the women at the bottom of the pyramid.
हिंदुस्तान की हर गरीब महिला को सीधे बैंक अकाउंट में हिंदुस्तान की सरकार साल के 1 लाख रुपए देती।
अपने राजनीतिक स्वार्थ के लिए ऐसी घोषणाएं करने वाले कभी नई टेक्नोलॉजी पर निवेश नहीं करेंगे।
ये रेवड़ी कल्चर देश के विकास के लिए बहुत घातक है।
Many months later,
माझी लाड़की बहन योजना, ये योजना महिलाओं के विकास के प्रति हमारी प्रतिबद्धता का उत्तम उदाहरण है।
लड़की बहन योजना हमने शुरू कर दी है, उसमें 1,500 रुपया महीने का उनके खाते में डायरेक्ट जमा हो जाएगा।
लाडली बहन योजना ये गेम चेंजर योजना है। इस योजना के कारण महिलाओं को सामाजिक आर्थिक परिवर्तन के केंद्र बिंदु में लाने का प्रयास ये हम लोगों ने किया है।
And this scheme is absolutely useless because of 3 reasons. Number 1, direct cash transfers do not empower women, they create dependency without building skills or opportunities. Number 2, 46,000 crores yearly is a huge drain on the budget, and that could be invested in education, healthcare and job creation, which will actually empower women in the long run. And lastly, short-term cash doesn't lift families out of poverty, only jobs do. So this is a temporary fix which will eventually increase dependency and not empowerment. Then we have the youth working scheme, which is costing the state 10,000 crores per year, but in return, it's providing job relevant skills through on-the-job training in both industrial and non-industrial setting. So it is a freebie which will eventually create jobs, which is a good thing for the economy of Maharashtra. And then we have Annapurna Yojana, in which they are distributing free gas cylinders for 52 lakh families. Again, this might look bad on the outset, but it's actually very good because it prevents people from using kerosene and from burning firewood, which causes a lot of internal pollution. In fact, a chula is so bad that using a chula a day is as bad as smoking 11 cigarettes a day. Then we have Girls Free Education Scheme, which is costing us 2,000 crores a year, which is again good because it creates jobs and empowers women. But, after that there is the Pilgrimage Darshan Scheme, where residents of Maharashtra aged 60 years and above with an annual family income of up to 2.5 lakh rupees are eligible to get facilities for a pilgrimage, with the cost being borne by the government itself. And they say that this cost could be in the range of 30,000 rupees per person. Now, from an economic standpoint, it's a disaster because it doesn't result into an economic output. It is not going to cause a dramatic shift in the lives of these elderly people. And if it is costing us 30,000 rupees per person, it will cost us thousands of crores in taxes. So it is a terrible economic decision which seems like an election gimmick. Similarly, there is something called the Bali Raja Power Concession Scheme, where we're about to spend 14,760 crores annually for 44 lakh farmers to give them subsidized electricity. Now again, this might sound great because farmers are benefiting, but it is actually not good in the long run. Why? Because of three reasons. Number one, paying bills won't make farmers self-reliant, it just traps them in dependency. Number two, boosting income by subsidies is fake growth, it's not real progress in farming. And this money needs to be invested in technology and not paying electricity bills. And lastly, these 14,000 crores could be used to build better roads, water and tools that can actually raise the incomes of farmers instead of giving them fake growth at the cost of the taxpayers' money. So do you realize, while some schemes are great, others are just pointless freebies which are more of election gimmicks than actual economic boosters. In fact, even Maharashtra's own finance department has raised red flags for the same. According to their data, Maharashtra's deficit has doubled since June 2024 from 1.1 lakh crores to 2 lakh crores. And hold on, it gets worse. If Maharashtra fails to get its fiscal and revenue deficits under control, the state will only have two options. Either they will have to cut back on highways, schools and hospitals, or they will have to borrow more money, which will drag Maharashtra deeper into a debt trap. And the scary part is that this isn't just a future problem, it's happening right now as we speak. Maharashtra has already started slashing budgets across critical sectors like agriculture by 15%, in healthcare by 9%, and urban development by 27%. Similarly, 400 contractors across 4 PWD divisions are still waiting for 500 crore rupees in payments for the works that were completed more than a year ago. And across all departments, pending bills are close to 40,000 crores. And recently, the contractors even protested in 29 districts over these unpaid dues. And in spite of this financial mess, the freebie announcements just keep on coming. So the question that we all need to ask is, are we really okay with losing our highways and hospitals for cheap election stunts? When did cash handouts become more important than our state's future? And are we okay to let reckless freebies rob us from the real progress of Maharashtra? Think about it. This is the second part of our economic analysis, which is revenue management, where Maharashtra is doing a terrible job. And here's the impact of this mismanagement on infrastructure. You see, economists often use this ratio of capex to GDP ratio to determine how much the state is investing in infrastructure as a percentage of GDP. So if Maharashtra's capital expenditure is 100 crores and its GDP is 1000 crores, the capex to GDP ratio will be 10%. Now look at this. In the past 5 years, Maharashtra ranked 16th out of the 19 large states with a capex to GSDP ratio of just 1.5%. And this is not good news at all. States like Uttar Pradesh stand at 3.8%, Karnataka stands at 2.5%, Gujarat stands at 1.7%, and even West Bengal stands at 1.7%, whereas Maharashtra only stands at 1.5%. So if Maharashtra doesn't boost its capital investments, soon foreign direct investments will not come to Maharashtra, and again the state will lose jobs and the state will lose money. If this is very, very clear to you, let's talk about one of the biggest problems in Maharashtra's growth story, which is something called the East-West divide of Maharashtra. To tell you about it, the map of Maharashtra can literally be split into two regions. Western Maharashtra, which is the economic powerhouse, and Eastern Maharashtra, which is even today struggling with underdevelopment and poverty. Look at this map. The map of Maharashtra can clearly be divided into two parts, and you will see that in the west, you will have very high and high per capita income regions, and in the east, you only have medium and low per capita income regions. And this divide is so bad that while Mumbai has a per capita income of more than 4 lakh rupees, Gadchiroli stands at just 1.2 lakh rupees. So there is a 3 times difference in the per capita income. And think about it, 1.2 lakh rupees per capita income comes down to just 10,000 rupees a month. This is the per capita income of this region. So do you realize A lot of people are poor in these regions of Maharashtra, which is why it is deeply concerning. This means wealth created in Maharashtra's urban centers is not reaching the struggling districts. And if this continues unchecked, while the people in Mumbai will keep on struggling with high real estate cost and extreme traffic, the people at Vidarbha region will suffer with unemployment, no development and no growth at all. So it's bad for both regions in the long run. And hold on, it gets even worse. Rural Maharashtra isn't just lagging, it's sinking deeper into poverty. According to the economist Surjit Bhala, a household of 4 earning less than 13,122 rupees per month is considered to be below the poverty line. And here's the shocking truth. 26% of Maharashtra's population falls below this poverty line. And that's even higher than Bihar, where the rural poverty stands at 23%. So this growing divide isn't just unfair, it's dangerous. A state cannot thrive if one part flourishes while another is trapped in poverty. So the question that we need to ask is, what exactly is the government doing to fix this gap? And this is a big problem because this divide directly shows its impact both on education and the healthcare system of Maharashtra. Let me explain how. Look at education. Overall, Maharashtra has a very good gross enrollment stat and the graduation numbers are also pretty decent. But while the gross enrollment ratio is above 40 in regions such as Kolhapur, Pune, Aurangabad, Amravati and Nagpur, it is lower than 15 in Gadchiroli, Yavatmal, Washim, Buldana and Latur regions. Similarly, when it comes to healthcare, the east-west divide in Maharashtra shows up again. Just look at this table. Private hospitals are mostly cluttered in the western districts of Maharashtra and not so much in the east. Like Pune has 92 private hospitals, Nashik has 184 hospitals and Kolhapur has 261 hospitals. But on the other hand, if we go east, Gondia has just 1 private hospital, Gadchiroli has 4 and Nandurbar only has 4. So do you realize this disparity is quite disturbing? Similarly, if you look at the national average for the number of beds in the state, it is 24 per lakh people. But in Maharashtra, there are only 14 beds per 1 lakh people. And if you look at other states, Kerala has 22, Gujarat has 19 and Karnataka has 33 hospital beds per 1 lakh people. So if you put all of this together, according to the Niti Aayog report, while in districts like Nagpur, Pune, Sangli and Wardha, only 3 to 4% of the population is deprived of basic health and education benefits. Whereas in Vidarbha and Marathwada, more than 10% of the population is classified as multi-dimensionally poor. And in districts like Nandurbar and Dhule, this number skyrockets to 33% and 24%. And by the way guys, multi-dimensional poverty means being poor not just financially, but also in terms of health, education, opportunity and security. So while the West is prospering with great education, great healthcare and great jobs, the East Maharashtra is struggling to get a hospital bed, they're struggling for education and they're struggling for jobs. This is the detailed overview of Maharashtra's performance in terms of economics, governance, healthcare and education. And by the way guys, as far as ease of doing business is concerned, we are doing a great job and there is nothing to complain. It's just that the development that Maharashtra is experiencing, it needs to stretch towards the east. Otherwise, there'll be a massive divide between the east and the west and both regions will suffer because of this divide. So this begs the question, what should we demand from the party that comes to power and keep the government at check? Very simple, we only need 3 things. Number 1, the government must spend less on freebies and more on long-term economic upliftment programs. Number 2, the government needs to develop the east and decongest the western part of Maharashtra. And lastly, we desperately need to provide education and healthcare to the eastern part of Maharashtra. If this is done, the state will progress and we will remain the top performing state in the country. That's all from my side for today guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.